Well, the big story that we are tracking at this hour, the crackdown on terror in Kashmir seems to be paying off in ways more than one. In what could be the first signs of a rift between terror groups operating in the valley, the homegrown Hizbul Mujahideen group has blamed Zakir Musa, who is the head of Al-Qaeda in Kashmir, for the spate of encounter killings in the valley. The video message has surfaced where 5 masked men claiming to be Hizbul terrorists can be heard calling Musa a traitor and targeting him for setbacks the terror group has suffered of late. Musa had earlier threatened to chop off the head of Kashmiri separatist leaders for interfering in his struggle for Islamic rule in Kashmir. All right, that's the big story we're tracking in from Kashmir. This comes as the sign of a rift between terror groups operating in Jammu and Kashmir. We are talking about homegrown terrorist group Hizbul Mujahideen, who has now come out in a video message blaming Zakir Musa, head of Al-Qaeda in Kashmir. The Hizbul Mujahideen is blaming Zakir Musa for the spate of encounter killings in the valley. This, according to a video message that has surfaced where one can see 5 masked men who claim to be Hizbul Mujahideen terrorists, and they are calling Zakir Musa a traitor and targeting him for the setbacks that Hizbul Mujahideen has suffered of late. Remember, this comes after just yesterday, security agencies had released a list of most wanted terrorists in the valley, which are on the hit list of the security agencies. A couple of big names that surfaced in there, all mostly leaders of the Hizbul Mujahideen. We are talking about a new development that seems to be taking place in Jammu and Kashmir. Is there a rift in the terror groups operating in the valley? Well, a video that has now surfaced that shows 5 masked men seems to suggest just that. In this video, one can see Hizbul Mujahideen men allegedly threatening Zakir Musa, calling him a traitor. This video message comes after security forces have successfully managed to gun down several top men of Hizbul Mujahideen. Let's go across to WION senior editor Surya Gangadharan, who's with us live from the newsroom. Surya, what do you feel? Is this really a rift that one can see emerging between these 2 big terror groups who operate in the valley, namely the Hizbul Mujahideen and Al-Qaeda, particularly Zakir Musa, their head? All right, I'll try and go back to Surya in just a bit, fixing an audio connection with there. But that's the big question that we're asking at this point. Zakir Musa being threatened by Hizbul Mujahideen in a video that has surfaced. This is a big breakthrough in terms of security forces operation as well. If these reports are to be believed, and if this video message is indeed authentic and is being filmed, has been filmed by Hizbul Mujahideen terrorists. All right, defense expert Lieutenant General Raj Kardian is on the line with me. Sir, thanks so much for speaking to us. There seems to be a video that has surfaced which shows 5 masked men allegedly belonging to Hizbul Mujahideen, and now they're calling Zakir Musa, the head of Al-Qaeda in the valley, they're calling him a traitor. Do you see this as the first big sign of a rift emerging between the two?
Yeah, in fact, from the point of view of security forces, this is a good development. When there is a division and disarray in the terrorist camp, then they will try and help the security forces in getting the rivals killed. Zakir Musa is not the one who believes in Azadi of Kashmir, which the Hizbul Mujahideen has been chasing their dream. But Zakir Musa is a representative of the Al-Qaeda, and ISIS. They are fighting for Islam. So these are the 2 streams of thought. If what Hizbul Mujahideen says, whether it is correct or not is not material, but the fact that they are speaking against a rival terrorist and accusing him of getting the terrorists killed in the valley is a good sign from the security point of view. The division is the first sign of disarray. It's not too far future. The security forces, which are already pressing on to the terrorists, will be able to eliminate them. They are now confined to some areas of South Kashmir. But the time is not too far whether they will be able to eliminate all the terrorists.
Right.
But the point is not only elimination of terrorists, but elimination of terrorism. And that can only happen once the supply of jihadists and the infiltration, supply of money and material stops from the source.
Absolutely, which the NIA is cracking down on. Right. Right.
Only when we are able to reign in Pakistan, this problem can actually be finally solved.
Lieutenant General Raj Qadian, may I please request you to be on the line with us? Surya Gangadhar and WION's senior editor is also live with us. Surya, how do you see this development? Zakir Musa has talked of, of many things. He was part of Hizbul Mujahideen before he was appointed the head of Al-Qaeda cell Ansar Ghazwatul Hind. How do you see this development now taking place?
I think in the last couple of years, there's been a concerted attempt by the government, by law and order agencies, by the intelligence agencies to target the whole issue of terrorism in Kashmir at two levels. One, you hit at the separatists who are being funded from across the border in Pakistan. We've heard of NIA raids on them. You also alluded to it. That's one aspect of it. The second was targeting militant groups across the board in Kashmir, turning some of them around. In fact, if you recall, Burhan Wani at one point was even working for Indian intelligence. And at some point, when he got too big for his boots, he was eliminated. So in that sense, there is a concerted campaign underway to cut down these groups, eliminate key members, turn terrorists against terrorists, and in that sense, help the broader cause of pushing forward the peace agenda in Kashmir.
Right. Lieutenant General Qadian, do you also see this, on the part of Hizbul Mujahideen? Are they now jittery? We have seen successful operations carried out by the security forces over the last couple of months. There is a new hit list that came out just yesterday, naming some of very young and top Hizbul Mujahideen terrorists as well. They are on the security forces' radar at this point in time. Do you see the Hizbul Mujahideen perhaps very jittery at this point and therefore coming out with such a video?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a pressure from the security forces that has resulted in the disunity and disarray of the terrorists themselves. And in the fight against terrorism, it is not a contest of armed people, security forces versus the armed militants. They are too small a number to have an armed confrontation. It is a battle of intelligence. If our intelligence agencies have been able to penetrate their inner self and cause that division, which is always the task of the intelligence, then I think it's a good development. This video itself, which is criticizing one of their ex-members who has switched over to Al-Qaeda loyalty, is a very good development, as I say, from the security point of view. Hopefully, the security forces should get greater and quicker success in the days and weeks to come.
All right, so Shan Sareen is also on the line with me. He's a senior fellow at the Vivekananda International Foundation. Mr. Sareen, thanks so much for joining us. This video that has now come to light, allegedly filmed by Hizbul Mujahideen terrorists, they are calling Al-Qaeda's leader in Kashmir a traitor, Zakir Musa. But give us a sense of how these terror groups taking on each other could really benefit the security forces in terms of eliminating terrorists from the valley and also making their task perhaps easier. Do you believe?
No, it's a bit of a no-brainer that if the terrorist groups are going to be fighting with each other and there are going to be mutual suspicions, then the kind of information flow which comes to the security agencies, is that much more than what it would otherwise be. And if they, fight against each other and kill each other, then it saves the security forces a lot of trouble. But having said that, I think let's not take away the credit from the Jammu and Kashmir police and the army and other security forces out there who have managed to get their feet back on the ground. They're standing firm. Many of the old intelligence networks have been reactivated and the information flow is coming, which is why you see, the spate of encounters in which most of these pretty high-profile terrorists have been killed. But there are two other factors which are also at play. One is that the security forces are also getting a lot of information from common people. Now, that is partly because many of the common people in Kashmir are very deeply harassed by many of these terror groups and they don't want to return to those bad old days of the 90s. plus there are rewards to be earned. So I think all these factors combined, and then the fact that the local police, which had, when all hell had broken loose last year, had been generally staffed by the worst kind of officers who were more into, sucking up to the political leadership and doing all sorts of nefarious work for them, to more professional officers. So I think the change of guard in the police forces at the district level, where, much more robust officers have been brought in, who are doing yeoman service, I think that has also played a very, very important role in the way the security forces have worked. So I think it's a combination of factors.
Right.
And to the extent that these terrorists are, there's an internecine warfare between them, serves us quite well.
Absolutely. Surya, do you agree with what Mr. Sushant Sareen is saying, that this is something which perhaps not by design, but it might actually happen, a war within these different terrorist groups in the valley, which might actually benefit the security forces, something, they've been hitting hard as far as targets in the valley is concerned in the past couple of months, successfully managed to eliminate more than, about 100 terrorists in the valley.
I think we've seen this in the past, about 25-30 years ago, during the peak of terrorism in Punjab, At some point, the whole tables turned because common people were feeling constantly harassed, intimidated, threatened by terror groups. And that's when the information began to reach the police and the other agencies. That's when the tide began to turn. I think we are seeing the similar situation evolving in Kashmir. Although it's still early, we have to see how this goes. But I understand the Kashmir DG was in town only the other day, and one of the assessments made was that there are perhaps 150 odd terrorists still on the loose in Kashmir. And therefore, intensive efforts will now be made to eliminate them, either through encounters and intelligence operations, or by ensuring that one turns on the other and they are pushed out in that sense. Now, Pakistan's capacity to carry on its tactic of funding various groups will continue, but hopefully this will also diminish in time.
Right. Brigadier Mahalingam, defense expert, is also on the line with us. Brigadier Mahalingam, thanks so much for joining us. How do you see this rift developing between different terror groups in the valley, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Hizbul, Mujahideen, taking on Al-Qaeda, his leader, the organization's leader in the valley? How do you see this playing out in the days to come?
See, I have all along been saying that the terrorism in Kashmir is nothing but pure business and money. That is what it's all about. And I was in fact the first brigade commander to operate in the valley when this trouble started. And ever since then, I have been saying that Pakistan creates a number of sort of militant outfits so that they can play one against the other and then divide the money and the material that they pass on based on who does it better. And in other words, they basically try and play one against the other, and so that their sort of aim of keeping the militancy alive sort of stays on. Having said that, in this particular case, you must understand, Hizbul Mujahideen is a militant wing of Jamaat-e-Islami in the valley.
Right.
And both these elements are controlled by the Hurriyat leader, Shahid Shah Ali Gilani.